All right, let's do it live on a First Friday, and quite frankly, you may need one by the time you look at our injury report, and it would be appropriate for you to have one on a First Friday.
It would.
A cocktail tonight. Maybe give you the signature old-fashioned recipe by the time it's all said and done. But the news today, of course, out of the Cross Country Mortgage campus is that we will be playing Thursday night. In addition to everybody else who will be out, we'll be without our starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield. That announcement coming from the team this morning. Awaiting hearing Case Keenum at the podium. Could happen at any minute now. We'll take it and take it there live when it does, but it will be Case Keenum on Thursday night against the Broncos in a big crossroads-type game for this franchise.
It's a massive game, and look, Case Keenum was brought here to be able to be a kind of bridge in the event that your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, goes down, ending a 51 consecutive start streak for Baker Mayfield. Keenum, though, a veteran, 62 starts under his belt, took the Minnesota Vikings in 2017 to the NFC Championship when Kevin Stefanski was his quarterback's coach. So that's why he was brought here. He knows the system. I think he's going to be able to come out and execute it. Now, what we do know is that he will also be without Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Dearness Johnson will start at running back. What we do not yet know is who will start at tackle. Jed Wills, Jack Conklin, neither, which would be Blake Hansen, James Hudson. I think the Browns are optimistic that they can get one of those two back for this game, which would be good, but I think a lot will depend on how everybody feels tomorrow. You do not know if you will have Odell Beckham Jr. or Jarvis Landry. Both have put in a little bit of work. We'll see. Game time decisions there as well. Josina Anderson saying he has a grade 3 sprain of the AC joint in his shoulder, but wants to be out there. So you think about 11 guys on offense, quarterback, couple running backs, 3 receivers.
Couple running backs. 2 of the top 5 running backs in the league.
3 receivers,
both down.
5 offensive linemen. Of what you expected to have out there, for sure you will have Joel Bitonio, J.C. Trotter, Wyatt Teller, Austin Hooper, Chief Harrison Bryant.
Knock on plexiglass. We're not there yet.
I feel pretty good about that. But, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
With our luck, one could sprain an ankle at the grocery store
just
tonight.
Slip right down, and, who knows what could happen. So
we've never seen anything like this.
No.
There's no precedent for this. I mean,
no.
Now, at this point, we're lucky in that for now, none of this is season-ending. Right? So in that sense, it's different than what the 49ers went through a couple of years ago. It's different from that in that those were season-ending injuries. But I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like it. Quarterback, 2 running backs who are both top 5, as I said, in the league, potentially both your top 2 receivers from a accomplishment.
Remember when you would do the basketball team analogy that was stolen everywhere, the top 5, Baker, Chubb, Hunt, Odell, Jarvis?
Right.
Definitely not 3.
No.
Hopefully 2, but could be 0. Could have none of the 5.
Could be none, yeah.
Could be turning like Smush Parker. I mean, I don't know where we're at.
What is a Smush Parker?
Yeah. Thought he was on my favorite team in my youth, my favorite basketball team.
No, remember that's Kobe's line.
Yeah.
He was so upset.
He's so furious.
So mad.
Well,
the best part about that was he wanted Andrew Bynum, like he had no time for Andrew Bynum. He wanted a Smush Parker, Andrew Bynum trade for Baron Davis. And you could argue that they do not win a championship without Andrew Bynum because part of the reason they won was because of Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol.
Played great.
Yeah, they had the 2 bigs. And if Kobe would have done that, you would have had him and Baron Davis.
He would not have been happy with Baron Davis's ball monopolization.
Of course not. It would have been 42-40.
Eddie,
but we're staring down a steady diet of 42-40.
Yes.
Look, here's the deal. Case Keenum is compensated well because of instances like this being possible, because you have a team that is good. Now, again, really wounded, but a team that is good. And the idea here is this is the job. This is in the brochure. You sign up to play on short notice and for there not to be much of a drop-off from your starter. I want to say he's the second highest paid backup quarterback in the league to Nick Foles, and that's kind of a trick because Foles is still being paid under his salary when he was a starter when Jacksonville signed him.
Got Case ready to go.
So speaking of Case Keenum, here he is at the podium.
First question will come from Jake Trotter.
You guys are down.
Yeah, hey, Case, how ready do you feel given the short week of preparation and just given how long it's been since you've been in this position as the starting quarterback?
I feel very ready. I've been ready. You can say you don't have to get ready if you stay ready, and I've been ready since I got here. So I'm excited. I'm ready.
Thanks, Jake. To Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Case, can you just talk about your familiarity with this offense, with Kevin Stefanski, and then just, all the guys on this team that you've been repping this with since last year, and why you think all of that will really help you on Thursday night?
Yeah, obviously very familiar with Kevin, from our time going all the way back to Minnesota, but just over the last year and a half, 2 years really that we've gotten to work and really put in this Cleveland Browns offense, and even more specifically what it is in 2021. So we're right in the middle of it. I've been right in the middle of it the whole way, getting reps. Millions of reps, honestly, with my, in my mind. If I'm not getting them on the field, I'm getting them in my mind. So I've gotten a lot of reps, and even on a short week like this, I've done it a lot. So I'm excited with the guys out there. I know we're uncertain on a lot of the guys who's going to be out there, but I'm built for this. This is what I've done my whole career, not knowing if I'm going to start up until the game time, to not knowing who's out there with me, to introducing myself to players while I'm calling a play type stuff. So, I'm excited. What better chance to, take advantage of an opportunity than on Thursday Night Football? I know these opportunities don't come around very often to be a starting quarterback in this league, only 32, per week. So, I'm ready to take advantage of it.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Tom Withers, you're up.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Case. You just kind of answered my question, but I just was going to go back to how great is this would be a tough challenge under normal circumstances with the short week and then the uncertainty across the board without, Nick and Kareem and Odell and your tackles. How much greater is this challenge?
It's always a great challenge. I mean, and that's what this league is about. Nobody's at 100%. After week one, nobody's playing at 100%. That's the way it goes, and that's the hard truth. That's why it's a grown man's league. That's why guys who aren't physically tough and mentally tough don't make it very long, because you've got to be both of those things in order to continue to have success in this league. You can flash in the pan, but if you want to continue to have success, you got to be tough. And we had a tough team from top to bottom, tough head coach, and we're raring to go.
Thanks, Tom. Jeff Shadell, you're next.
Hey, Case, on a bigger picture scale, this could be, you guys are contenders for playoff spots. This could be more than a 1 week deal. How important is this game in the playoff chase?
They're all important, man. And it's impossible to look big picture right now. I don't think anybody's really looking big picture, especially on a Thursday night game. We're all singular focused on, what's going on right now. What am I doing next? What do I have tonight? What can I get out of tonight? What can I do tomorrow? If we have some walkthroughs, and then being ready to go, for game time on Thursday.
Thanks, Jeff. To Daryl Ryder.
Yeah, Case, I was wondering if you could touch on the challenge of facing Von Miller and, that Denver defense. What challenges do they present you?
Yeah, I saw Von's media deal the other day, and I tried to text him, and I think we came to agreement that he's just going to go out there and not rush the quarterback. I think he's going to take a knee every time he gets on third down, so I think we'll be good. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. I think he changed his number. I tried to text him, but he's a tough guy to block and run or pass. So we're going to know where he's at all times. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks. We'll go to Nate Ulrich.
Hey, Case, anything in this for you going against some familiar faces?
No, I mean, it's nice to see some old friends, but I got nothing but good feelings for my time at the Denver Broncos. So it's just another opponent, and a really good one at that. Vic Fangio defense with that front, and then with that back end, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, those guys, safeties, even the corners. There's a bunch of starts between all those guys. So I know it's going to be a tough task for us.
Thanks, Nate. Next up, Tony Grossi.
Case, I wanted to follow up on that in a different light. The uniqueness of this opponent is that you played for Denver.
but you also played under Shermer, and you played against Fangio's defense in the year you were the starting quarterback for the Vikings. Does all of that help make it a little more comfortable on a short week for you to prepare for this game?
Yeah, I think anytime you have experience, you can draw back on that. And that's probably the short answer to your question. But yeah, I mean, there's familiarity all over the league, and the longer I play, every week it feels like a reunion. So I hope to keep doing that.
All right, we have time for one more question. Scott Petrick.
Okay, Stan.
Hey, Case, I know the Baker's injury is serious, but how surprised are you that he's not able to go given the streak that he's had?
Given the what?
The streak, he hasn't missed a start since, 2018 when he took over.
He is a tough dude, and he fought, I mean, through some serious pain just to practice and just to get going a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak on the injury, and I won't speak because I don't know much about it, but I do know he's tough, and he take a freight train to keep him out of the game, and that's, I'm assuming that's what it did, because I mean, that dude plays through some serious pain, and it's impressive to be around. It's inspiring. I know the guys feel the same way.
Thank you, Scott. Case, thank you very much for the time today.
You guys are up.
All right, good stuff from Case Keenum. He'll start Thursday against one of his former teams, the Denver Broncos. We'll react to what we heard from Case coming up next. Off and Running, Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. What do you get when you combine the best ingredients with the best crew? Well, my friends at Raising Cane's. You get Raising Cane's quality chicken finger meals made for just you. Join the crew, ready to safely serve the community. Apply today at workatcanes.com or text RC Jobs to 97211. Standard message rates may apply. Raising Cane's, one love. Let's get into the OBM hot topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider to your Cleveland Browns. You have all the X's and O's to your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. The news today, very clearly, is that you will be without Baker Mayfield for the first time in 51 starts. He had a streak going back to his rookie year of consecutive starts. That will go away on Thursday. He obviously wanted to give it a go on Monday. Or when was he available? Yesterday? The days run together. Yesterday's Tuesday. Tuesday he was going to give it a go. He practiced Tuesday. And then this morning, the news that he would not. What is your level of surprise at him not playing based on the events of yesterday? And I do wonder, what changed in that? Is it we just know more? The swelling wasn't there, the short week. If this is a normal Sunday, does he play? There's been some conjecture about that.
I don't know.
Hard to say.
I can tell you that he was listed as limited in practice. I know that he did get some reps in. There is a picture that the Browns distributed that showed him as the quarterback in a team drill. So I think that at that time yesterday, clearly – there was thought that he would be able to play tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he would get, if they knew he was out, he gets 0 team reps this week. So the fact that he got any yesterday tells you that there was at that point a thought that he would be able to play. Now you hope Case Keenum got some reps as well. That we don't know. But Case Keenum, I remember interviewing Case when we signed him. And this was back during, obviously, the pandemic, and it was done via Zoom. He was down in his house in Texas. And I asked him, about, how he stays ready. He goes, look, as he kind of said this, I'm always prepared. I'm always ready because I live for that shot. And because when I get in there, I'm just going to sling the ball around the yard. And, you and I have talked about the records he set at Houston. I mean, he was a prolific quarterback in college. He comes to the NFL. He was only
He was the most prolific.
The most. Like set every
college,
record
yeah.
literally for throwing.
Literally the most prolific quarterback in the history of college football. They've been playing it for a long time.
So in 2017, he starts for the Vikings. 67% completions, 3,547 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 picks, and takes them to the NFC Championship game. The next year, he's Denver's starter for 16 games, throw for just a hair under 4,000 yards, 62% completions, 18 touchdowns, 15 picks. Then he goes to Washington, starts for part of that season in 2019, and throws for 11 touchdowns, 5 picks, completing 65% of his passes. So what you're going to get from Case Keenum is a guy who, as a full-time starter, basically 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's going to complete 65% of his passes. He's going to be accurate with the football. It's going to come out quick when it does. He's more effective. You go back, and I've tried to break down, that 2017 season, and that year, Case, from a clean pocket, which is very important. It's going to be critical to keep him clean. That year, 74% completions, 8.1 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks, quarterback rating of 107. In the quick game, and I would imagine we're going to use some of the quick game to keep Von Miller and company off of the quarterback. That year, 75% completion, 1,719 yards, 7.3 an attempt, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks, only 3 sacks. But in the quick game, his quarterback rating was 105.6 in 2017, third in the NFL behind only Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. So in that kind of quick game scheme, he can be incredibly efficient and effective, and I think that's what you're going to need. And he also likes to work the middle of the field, so I think this is going to be a big game for the tight ends. Case is, he's 6'1". He likes to step up in the pocket, deliver the football. If you go back to that 2017 season, in the middle of the field, between the numbers, 12 touchdowns, 1 pick, and at every depth. So behind the line of scrimmage, 0-9, 10-19, 20+, quarterback rating of at least 104. It was 112 behind the line, 104, 0-9, 114, 10-19, and 126, 20+. So that's where he likes to operate, middle of the field, accuracy, rhythm, anticipation. Those are the keys for Case Keenum, and he is a good quarterback in those, and we saw him in the preseason orchestrate this offense nicely, made Davion Davis look darn good, and Davion Davis, they had a nice connection there. So this is an opportunity I know he's been waiting for.
Sure. I mean, look, I do a guy who played with him with the Rams. Do a show with the guy who played with him at the Rams.
I like that.
The other way was interesting too.
Very interesting.
It's the first Friday, kids. Poor Gibby's so disgruntled today he'll never even hear it.
Gibby, you missed a
real treat.
A great moment right
he did.
there.
Yeah, that was a real treat.
Oh,
It's
boy.
a good job out of
It
me.
was. It's a great job
It was
out
a
of
great job out of me. This guy is ultra competitive always.
Yes.
So has been going way back. This is a guy who literally owns every passing record of note in major college football history. You mentioned the 2007 season with Minnesota where he was really, really good. The reality is he's thrown 13 passes in the last 2 seasons, though.
Yep.
And so it's been a while, and he is 33 years of age now, so it's been a while. I'll tell you what, I feel, and this is not a reflection of him versus 6 or anything else. It's just from the standpoint of, obviously, if you have the tackles and if you have one of the backs, there's no question that I feel very confident going into, and I still do. But you also have to acknowledge that this is crazy, and we've talked mostly about Baker and Case. But yesterday, since we did this on the coaches show last night, but Odell Beckham Jr. did not practice yesterday. So we had this yesterday on the coach show. We didn't have it on this show. So that was another guy who I thought, well, he'll probably be there on Thursday. Now, who knows? Now, you saw the Josina piece. He's working on it.
I think he's going to try. If it's possible, he will be out there.
Yeah. We don't know about Jarvis. We do know we're without both backs, and you hope that one of the tackles can get there. So then you have to say to yourself, and you brought this up yesterday, and I think astutely, you're without JOK, who's your leading tackler, and a big, big part of what you're doing, obviously. But beyond that, you're healthy defensively.
Yeah.
So you really are leaning on that defense, and you are leaning on being efficient offensively and manufacturing points with a patched-together group. I look at the tight ends, and I say, this is a week for you.
Yeah, Austin Hooper, the Chief. I mean, Case Keenum. Here's one other thing. If we want to turn into a silver lining with all these injuries, who did Case Keenum work with in this preseason? Case Keenum worked with Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Sure.
Would start those games at receiver. Hollywood Higgins would start the game at receiver. His running back was Dearness Johnson, Demetric Felton, John Kelly. So he actually has familiarity with the people that are going to be touching the football around him the most. So in that sense, that's a positive. He's got rhythm with these receivers. And he also told me earlier this year when I talked to him after one of those preseason games how nice it was to get that action. He mentioned 13 passes the last 2 seasons, but remember, he didn't get to play in the preseason last year. So this year he got to get that work, develop some of that rhythm and chemistry. And I think he and Donovan Peoples-Jones will have a nice connection. We did see the tight ends other than Hoop in the preseason. So Harrison Bryant, the Chief a little bit. I think he's going to have rhythm with those guys. I'm not worried about that. And I think that will be ultimately helpful. And look, having Jarvis and Odell is always a good thing. So if you get those guys out there, great, even better. And I think the team is hopeful that they can. I think Case, this is what he wants. Chance to play in a meaningful football game. This is against a team that brought him in for 1 year, paid him nicely, but then let him go. So there's a personal angle to this. There's an opportunity to play in a real meaningful, as I said, important football game for the first time in many, many years. So I think Case Keenum is pumped about this, and I'm excited for him to get that chance. I think he will run the offense efficiently. Does he have the arm to make some of the big-time throws down the field? No. But
he knows that, and Kevin knows that.
Everybody
knows
that.
Everything will be done to engineer, and that's probably why this thing had to be done now. Is we got to get a day in of putting together in something quickly here that we can run and we can rely upon by the time we get to Thursday night, because this is. It's a really big game. It is a really big game. When you sit at 3-3, you think you got 2 divisional games following this one. If you were to somehow lose it, I don't anticipate that, but if you were, you're starting to dig yourself a bit of a hole. So this is a really important game against a lot of odds and really banged up. That's the reality of the situation. But he was brought here for these type of circumstances.
Yes.
And he's compensated to be ready in these type of circumstances. And what we know of him, you feel like he will be. This game is going to be, boy, it's not going to be unlike anything you've ever seen. It's been so long since we haven't had so many of these guys. It's going to be strange to watch, to not see those familiar numbers and faces out there. Going back to 2018.
The last time that you didn't have Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt carrying the ball for you?
Chubb's rookie year, before Chubb's rookie year.
Yeah. I mean, it took a little while that season, but he was still available.
He was there.
He'd get 3 carries, 100 yards.
And I kept saying, boy, I'd like to see more of him. And you had your affection for Carlos Hyde.
My days in Columbus.
You covered him for your time in Columbus and said, boy, he's proven. I think that's the one. And I said, well, I don't know. This guy's about 8 yards a carry.
This guy's pretty good.
I don't know. Maybe we got to play him. He seems to go.
Seems elite.
Go to the house a lot.
He seems pretty elite.
So God, that was a fun year, wasn't it?
It was
With
a
all the
fun year.
chaos of
Yeah.
that. Can you believe that? That was year one for us. What a time to be alive. That season had everything.
Boy.
It really did. And ended in
too
pure
much
joy.
Too much for my taste.
Well, right, but ends in pure joy.
It did.
It ended in it ended with so much promise and in pure joy.
That moment, Week 16 at home against the Bengals, was all time.
So is it Week 15 that year when we're at Denver, or is that like Week 14 when Cole's in the Shearling?
It would have been
and
right
we
around
beat
there.
Denver out there.
It may have been 15. It was 15 or 14 because
Late in the
17
season,
was
it was
at
cold.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
It was. It may have been. It may have been that week and then the Cincinnati game.
At that point, you controlled your destiny.
Yep.
From the playoffs, so that felt real again. You had a real quarterback. You said hug him. Well done. And then it's Cole and Shearling, and that's this.
Yeah.
Double kisses from Cole.
Let's see.
It was late. I remember. I want to say it was either.
Yeah, it
It was December. It was a Saturday night NFL Network game.
It was week.
Yeah.
It was.
We got there on Thursday.
It was week 15.
I needed to go home to dry out by the weekend.
You got there Thursday for that game?
Oh yeah.
We lost to the Texans in Houston. Then we came home. We beat the Panthers 26-20. Cam threw an interception at the end of the game, and his shoulder, you could tell, was pretty shot. Then we beat the Broncos 17-16. I would say, didn't Jabril get a sack at the end to ice that game?
I think he did. I think he had I remember him having. He was really played good at the end of that year, but I remember that. Yep.
Then we
He
beat the
flew in.
Bengals 26-18, and then we lost to the Ravens 26-24. But I felt like that game we didn't have the chance to make the playoffs in that game, did
The
we?
Baltimore one. By the time we got to Baltimore.
Yeah, and we had won the 3 games in a row prior.
Yeah, I think there were other things that happened around us.
We got eliminated based on someone winning.
Somebody won late that year, like in Week 16. That it was
it was a Saturday night game because when we
That's
came in
right.
on Sunday, we were out.
We were out, yeah, because of something happened on that Saturday. But yeah, that one had it all. So yeah, you got to go back to before.
But that last game
Yes.
of the year was Baltimore. It was a 420. It got flexed to 425. Romo Nance on the call, and it was for Baltimore to get in to the playoffs.
Yep. Oh, that's right. You're trying to keep them out.
Yes, and we got jobbed by the officials on the pick 6 by guy who's the safety for the Giants now, Jabril Peppers.
Jabril got hit on one.
That game. But yeah, then we had the ball at the end.
Yeah.
We had the ball at the end.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a fun
so
season.
that's where you got to go. Well, the tragedies early, the obstacles early, and then pure joy at the end.
Yeah.
That's why
but it was
a
a
movie script.
Thursday night game that got it kick-started.
It was a Thursday night game that got a kickstart as you bring it full circle. Lots to get into here in terms of what this all looks like, and we'll continue to do so. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. EOX Vantage has that local presence with the global footprint and trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. This is a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Scheel. Ed is the vice president of Skyward Specialty Insurance. He says, quote, "The tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door for us to all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They help our team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely, make it easy to communicate with customers, cut down the way of manual data entry and the associated input errors, and cut hours off processes and response times. Operationally, it is a brand new ballgame for us, and it can be for you too. You can learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com. Or give him a call at 216-298-1616. So Case Keenum is the starter. He will start on Thursday night here against Denver. In terms of who else will be there, let's do this right now. Let's set the table. Let's kind of go through the offensive 11 of who we know will be there and who we know will not, and then the uncertainties. There's been so much going on this week, and on a short week, I think it's even added to it. I'm confused. Sometimes I feel like today's Tuesday. It's actually Wednesday.
Yeah.
We play tomorrow, so everything's condensed on that standpoint. So where are we with that due with the fact that you play tomorrow, which I think honestly impacts some of these calls that are being made? If you played Sunday, certainly the timing of these calls would be different, but even the result might be different.
All right, so quarterback, we know it's going to be Case Keenum. Running backs. Dearness Johnson will get the first start of his career. John Kelly has been added off the practice squad and will be the backup running back. Johnny Stanton is your fullback with Andy Janovich on IR. Stanton's your fullback. And then Demetric Felton, I think, could mix in and get a few touches out of the backfield, but still primarily is going to be in your receiver room. Receivers, DPJ, Hollywood Higgins, Anthony Schwartz, Demetric Felton, and then we don't know on Odell Beckham Jr. or Jarvis Landry, but I think there is some optimism that you can have one or both of them. Tight end, here's where we're actually pretty set. You've got your three every week. Hoop, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant. And then on your offensive line, for sure you've got your guards and your center. So Joel Bitonio, J.C. Trotter, Wyatt Teller. Blake Hance would be your next tackle up. James Hudson, we know, is the next tackle after that. But I do think there is some optimism that Jed Wills may be ready to come back with that from that ankle injury, and that Jack Conklin could be ready as well. But I think there's hope that, if not both, one could go in this game. And that's big because James Hudson was not supposed to play this year and clearly needs a little bit more time for development. This man, his wardrobe never needs
time for development.
It's just pure as the driven snow.
He's got an incredible it's a navy blazer and then a
Carolina
baby blue Carolina blue vest underneath
with a white collared shirt,
of course, which is the collar is pristine.
I thought initially from my first glance from far that he might be crafting it, which I thought was going to be just like,
that's the next evolution.
What a Wednesday.
That will be the next evolution. I think you have to reach a certain age. I mean, I have a couple of those.
I have one.
And I've worn it I wear it from time to time, not as much anymore because I don't do as much TV, but when I used to TV, I'd wear it from time to time. And you certainly are in a mood when you put it on.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't help but being in a mood when you put it on.
Be in a mood.
Yeah. So
I wish the weather would cooperate. I feel like Thursday Night Football might be a nice time for me to break something out of that ilk.
I don't know what you're up for. What do we got? Do we have an update?
I believe like 80% chance of rain.
Oh, my God, really?
And wind.
It's supposed to be out by kickoff, but
yeah, but it doesn't sound
tailgating's not going.
Oh my
tailgating's going to be a rough
chance.
experience.
It doesn't sound like. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like suit weather. It sounds like
your dark skies.
It sounds
not
like
giving
rain
a lot
gear
of hope
weather.
there.
You need a slicker.
It sounds like rain gear weather for me.
Yeah,
you need your rubbers.
That's right. Boy. Yeah, that's not great. That's pure crud.
Yeah.
I don't understand it when people are like if you're there, if you're one of the people there on Thursday, and we kick at 58, and so it's at that point the rain's supposed to be out. Well, let's say it's there. You kick at 8 o'clock. It's light rain. It's 58.
And winds 15 to 20 miles an hour.
And winds. You're telling me that if you're one of the people in there, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, we don't need a dome. This is where I'm at, baby.
This is football.
This is where I want to be. I don't get it.
Same.
I don't get it.
We are of like mind.
I don't get it. I'd rather it be climate controlled, 68, everything, all the certainties are known.
I say, especially if you've assembled a great roster, wouldn't you want to eliminate any variable that could hinder your great roster from doing what it does best?
That's right. Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
By the way, wanted to go back, and so that's where we are offensively. Defensively, it's everybody. Malik, Miles, Jadeveon Clowney, Tack McKinley, Anthony Walker. No Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but Malcolm Smith, who's played very well, comes back. You still have Mac Wilson. You still have Sione Takitaki, who have played extensive football. You have your entire secondary. Denzel, Greedy, Greg Newsome, back off of a pitch count. Troy Hill, John Johnson, Delpit, Ronnie. You got them all.
Yep.
You have that whole defense. This is the game when you think about the money that was paid to John Johnson. You think about the money that was paid to Jadeveon Clowney, the money that was paid to Malik Jackson, the money that was paid to Tack McKinley, the money that was paid to Anthony Walker, the investment into a Greg Newsome, the money that was paid to Troy Hill. This is the game.
This is for you.
For those guys to say, offense, we'll put it on our backs. We got you. Let's go out there and just annihilate this team. This is a Denver Broncos team that in their 3-game losing streak has given up 12 quarterback sacks. They've turned the football over 6 times. So let's get after them, and let's harass them, and let's generate some of these big plays and be the team that we have been. In our 3 wins, we're giving up 11 points and 200 yards a game. And our losses,
not
quadruple that.
Yeah.
So let's be that team. We need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
And honestly, the weather ought to benefit us quite a bit because Teddy is very good at finding open men and taking advantage. He does not have a big arm to drive down the field. So they've got 2 good backs. You wrap those up, force him to throw, especially down the field. This would feel like a man game to me. I would think. I don't know that there'd be anybody you'd be fearful of from their standpoint. Sutton's a nice player.
Sutton's good.
But he's not – I don't know. He's not. It's a totally different animal if they have Judy and Hamler. They don't have either one of them.
Right.
And if it's windy, then you're not going to probably be able to drive it down the field. So you're in that sense, your defense ought to be able to feast a little bit. Although you got a lot of respect for Teddy and what he's been able to do in his career. All right, coming up next, Jake Trotter will join us, get his thoughts on the events of the day. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Time to head out on the hotline for our buddy Jake Trotter. Well, it's been quite the 24-plus hours, my friend, from feeling like Baker was going to give it a go. He practiced, obviously, yesterday, to the news this morning that he's not, and now Case Keenum announced, and his press availability has been completed. You lived it. What do you make of it?
Well, it's only 1:45, and my computer is completely dead. My phone has like 5% left, so it's been one of those days for sure, just based on the battery life of my electronics. It was a really interesting Zoom call. I thought, I've talked to Case one-on-one a few times before, and, I expected him to show confidence and it be genuine too. And that's exactly, I think, the way that he came out and just said, I think it was to my question, he said, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So he, as in his words, is built for this type of moment where, as the backup quarterback, he's got to come in and carry this team, and we'll see who's out there with him. But the Browns need a big performance from Case Keenum on Thursday, and this is what they, gave him that contract for. They didn't just pay him to be a mentor for Baker, although that was part of the equation. They paid him considerable money for a backup quarterback to be able to come in this kind of moment and deliver. And just based off everything he said a few minutes ago, if you're a Browns fan, you got to feel pretty good about him in that moment in a pinch.
Yeah, remember when we talked to him and that confidence, that was one of the first things that I took away from him. He was ready. He said, if I ever get in there, I'm just going to sling the ball around the yard, which is what he's done his whole career, and obviously had that good, successful run with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota. But, Jake, my question to you is this. Have you heard anything? What changed? Because the Browns sent out, the photos yesterday that showed Baker Mayfield taking reps in a team drill. So you would have to imagine that at that point there was at least a thought that he was going to play in this game, because if they knew he was not, he would not be taking any team reps.
I think what changed was Baker came to terms with reality, which is his shoulder is just not right now. And he needs time for the inflammation to go down so that he can, do the type of exercises that he needs to do to stabilize it, to strengthen it. The labrum's not going to heal by itself, but at least it can get to a manageable point, which it was before the re-aggravation on Sunday against Arizona with that J.J. Watt play. And just, the shorter turnaround, just not enough time for the trauma on it to kind of settle down. And, he got the second opinion back from his own doctor, and it basically matched what the team doctors were telling him, which is you need some time for this to calm down so that you can get to a manageable point from a pain perspective where you can play and it's not going to affect you. And if Baker was the last one. He really wanted to play. We saw what he said yesterday. That's Baker. That's why he hasn't missed an NFL start due to an injury. It's why he never missed a start at Oklahoma due to an injury. You got to go all the way back to Texas Tech when he was a true freshman walk-on in 2013 to find the last time that Baker Mayfield missed a start due to an injury. He's played through a lot of pain in Cleveland. So I just think that everybody came to the realization, more specifically Baker, that it just wasn't the smart thing to do. That he needed time to get right because it's a long season. The Super Bowl is not going to be decided on Thursday night against the Denver Broncos.
No, it certainly is not. As you understand it, Jake, in terms of the management of the injury, and you've probably been following this a lot more closely than we have, given it's your job in a certain way to do so. What is the management of it like? What does rest provides? Inflammation goes down, of course. That would be the next thing. But then from that point, is it just pain management and him just dealing with it? Will this get better, I guess, is the simple way to ask it. Will it get better without surgery throughout the season?
Yeah, I speak on this almost from a personal perspective because I didn't have a torn labrum in my shoulder, but I had a rotator cuff tear, and I had a lot of the fraying in the shoulder that Baker was dealing with. And so, just from my perspective, the tear in the labrum is not going to heal on its own. Like at some point, if he's going to want to fix that, that's going to require a surgical procedure. But you can get to a point where, it's more manageable. And, you might feel it if it gets hit a certain way, but on a play-to-play basis, it's not really affecting you. And so I think that's where they're trying to get back to. And, think about the L.A. game with Baker. He played terrifically in that game with the same injury. So he can perform with this injury. It's just right now it's really not tenable because of how much pain and inflammation he is in right now. I mean, I guarantee you when he woke up this morning after going through practice yesterday trying to throw, he did not feel great. And so, he's got to get to a point where, he can play in a game and he's just not feeling the shoulder on every single play, which I imagine is what it was going to be like had he tried to play tomorrow night.
Yeah, and you got Von Miller. We don't know what's going on at the tackle position yet. And, Jake, do you have any insight, any leans on, and I think the team's hopeful that one of the two tackles could be able to go Thursday night. But I think the big question marks out there are still a tackle, and then who's catching the ball? Do you have Odell Beckham Jr.? Does Jarvis Landry make his return?
Yeah, I've heard the same thing as you on the tackle situation. I mean, it's not, but it's really not unthinkable. And I think we'll get an announcement on who's questionable, who's et cetera here in the next few minutes. But it's not unthinkable, Nate, that you would have your backup quarterback, your third string running back, your fourth and fifth string offensive tackles, your third through fifth string wide receivers. I mean, it's a completely backup offensive unit across the board, depending on who's able to play. Because, on top of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt already being ruled out, you mentioned Jack Conklin and Jed Wills. We'll see. They've been dealing with stuff. They haven't practiced this week. You already got Chris Hubbard, your third tackle that everybody forgets about, who's out for the year with the tricep injury. Jarvis Landry's not been activated yet. We'll see with the knee. And then Odell Beckham, he didn't practice yesterday either with the shoulder injury. So, I mean, you were really down to a complete reserve unit, with the exception of like J.C. Trotter, Wyatt Teller, and Joel Bitonio in the tight ends across the board.
Yeah.
And then not to mention some of the injuries you're dealing with defensively, notably J.O.K., who it's gotten completely overshadowed this week, but that is a guy the Browns are going to miss for as long as he's out, because he was maybe playing about as well as anybody on that defense outside of Myles Garrett and maybe Jadeveon Clowney. He's been awesome this year. So, I mean, this is the type of game that whoever plays, you would love to just get like a 16-10 hard-fought victory and get out of there. It doesn't matter how it looks. You want to get a win, and if you get a win, you've had an extra few days of rest. You've got some very winnable games coming up, and you have a chance to stack some victories. So this is a huge game tomorrow, and it's going to take some effort from some guys that maybe not used to playing as much as they might have to play tomorrow night.
Jake, what do you think the Stefanski plan will be? I mean, so much of one of the P's we always talk about is prepare. So he's got a little more than 24 hours here. Probably from last night, he had a pretty good idea that Baker wasn't going to play, so he's had that much time to cook some stuff up. What do you think the plan will be offensively on Thursday with all of these guys out?
Yeah, he's got a lot of confidence in Case Keenum, and it stems from that 2017 season, that magical season they had together. The Minneapolis Miracle, the Case completed to Diggs, Stephon Diggs on that play in the playoff game. So I don't think he's going to go out there and coach scared by any means. Now, he's going to have to be careful because he's going to have a lot of new guys out there potentially. And so you got to make sure that everyone is on the same page. I don't know if it might force him to be more aggressive than usual or more conservative than usual. Do they go for fourth down? If it's 4th and 4, the 15, are they taking the points there? Might be a game where you say, okay, we paid all this money to upgrade our defense. It's time for our defense to win another game here because they have not played well outside of the Minnesota, the dominating Minnesota performance really all season. So, in Chicago as well, although that was kind of a different situation with Justin Fields. I think this is a game where, maybe you're really aggressive, but on the other hand, if you feel good about your defensive matchup, maybe you try to, tighten it up a little bit and again, try to win this game, 17-14, something like that.
I mean, I think you hit on something there that I've been talking about as well. You talk about the money that was invested, the new faces, the draft pick in the first round, Greg Newsome, who's off the pitch count. isn't this is their game, right? You're going against a Denver Broncos team that is the worst third down offense in the NFL. That's been your Achilles heel. Well, that's a wonderful remedy, although they do lead the league with 9 fourth down conversions. But isn't that kind of just the message? And, we heard Malik Jackson say Myles Garrett told the defense, this one's on us, that, yeah, if we can scratch together, I think every point is critical. This feels like a baseball game where you've got aces on the hill and this is not going to be an offensive game. And so if you can manufacture a run here or there, in this case 3 points here or there, a touchdown, that's what's going to matter. And then you are demanding this defense to do what it was brought here to do at a moment when this team really needs it.
It's time for the defense to show up. I mean, they have, I don't want to say they've been no-shows the last 2 weeks, but they have not played well. And they really haven't given their offense a chance. And now, we'll see how many starters are out. I guarantee you if it were the other way around and you had, 7 defensive starters out, but the offense was mostly healthy, those guys would feel like they could go out and win the game for the team. So it's on this
happened
defense.
in L.A. In L.A., we ended up, exactly. As that game went on, we were down a lot of people in that game.
It's on this defense. It's on this defense to show up. And, we'll see what happens. I think it'd be really troubling if they did not play well tomorrow against a team that they should be able to push around a little bit. So I think this is a game we're going to find out a little bit about the mettle of this defense because, if they step up and win this game, you feel really good about this team going forward.
Yep.
Because you're going to start to get some guys back. But, if they somehow get lit up by Teddy Bridgewater, I think that would be a really bad sign going forward. So this is going to be a litmus test game, I think, for that defense.
Jake, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for hopping on short notice, adding some perspective.
Yes, thank you.
My phone did not die on the live radio, so that's another victory today. See you guys.
Big win.
Stack those wins.
Stack them when you can get them. More wins coming our way. Coming up next, the great Bernie Kosar joins us. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
ESPN. You're hot.
Football isn't football without friends. Watching Browns games alone means no one's going to hear your amazing in-game commentary. The same is true when gambling. Keep things social. Never gamble alone. Just one of the helpful, responsible gambling tips you'll find at keepitfunohio.com. And with that, we head out on the hotline. And as always, the great, legendary Bernie Kosar joining us. Buddy, that you heard from Case Keenum there, and I wanted to lean on your expertise and your experience in this regard. The mindset of the backup quarterback, which is something that you did at the end of your career in Dallas and in Miami. And when we hear Case say, I'm ready, I'm prepared, I'm good to go, how do you do that?
I love how Case Keenum's been answering the questions, and not just with his words, but with his attitude and what I perceive as the genuineness of him, of saying that he doesn't need to get himself ready. He has himself ready.
Yep.
He has himself ready every week in preparation / in anticipation, God forbid, of something tragic happening with our starting quarterback. And unfortunately, it did. And it is happening right now. And that in itself, of course, is a big issue. But just as it pertains to Case, I really love how he just matter-of-factly said, I am ready. I'm ready every week. And that confidence, not only for us as fans and for the listeners out there, that absolutely resonates within the locker room, within the younger players, and within the coaching staff. That type of confidence, that type of leadership from Case, that's a beautiful thing to see, given the situation we're in this week.
Hey, said you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And so Case Keenum certainly is ready. And Bernie, I want to take you back to January the 23rd, 1994 NFC Championship game. You have to come in. And you come in, you throw for 83 yards, a touchdown against the 49ers and help the Dallas Cowboys get to the Super Bowl that year, one that you would go on to win 30-13 over the Buffalo Bills. When you're a quarterback who has played in the league, when you're a quarterback who has started, when you're a quarterback who has won playoff games in the past, and you have not played, and you get that opportunity, I think we may have lost Bernie right there. But I feel like that's what's so fascinating is it's the preparation to get ready, but it's also, and this is what I want to ask Bernie about, there's got to be a mental and almost an emotional preparation of I can't let myself get overwhelmingly excited about this. I still have to do my job. Even though this is what I've wanted, I just have to stay in the moment and focus on the preparation and my process and not get excited. So, Bernie, what I was going to ask you about that was, and did you hear what I kind of was setting up there?
No, somehow I got all sidetracked on it.
All right.
My computer skills leave a little bit to be desired.
No worries. So this is what I was saying. Back on January 23rd, 1994, you were the backup behind Troy Aikman in Dallas. You have to come into that NFC Championship game against the 49ers. You go 5 of 9 for 83 yards and a touchdown, a quarterback rating of 124, and help your Dallas Cowboys win the NFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl, which you'd go on to win over the Buffalo Bills. And when you're a guy who has been a starting quarterback, and obviously you started more than Case did in his career, but Case has taken a team to the playoffs. He's won playoff games. He's probably been waiting for this type of a moment again with a team that has a chance to do what the Browns do. How did you keep yourself not just prepared to play, but emotionally prepared to keep your emotions? Because I have to imagine that a bit of thrill. I'm back out there now. I have a chance to do this, but to keep everything focused on the business at hand.
Wow, Nathan, what's a great analogy to pull together. And I wouldn't have wanted to bring that up for fear of maybe sounding too old school or sounding like I'm trying to inject myself into the conversation. But as I was initially answering that question on Case Keenum, the excitement of me, how he says, I don't have to get ready when I stay ready like that, that was exactly the kind of the mindset that I had back as a backup quarterback, really at the end of my career, Nathan, to your point on the NFC Championship game. You're excited. Obviously, you want to get in the game and you want to play. But to that point, you've been a starter. You basically know what it takes to win in the league. You know what you need to do to be successful. And to that point of the Dallas Cowboys back then, we were a loaded, good football team. Just like the Cleveland Browns right now are a loaded, good football team. Myself, you stayed ready. You stayed intent personally and professionally, Nathan, and for the listeners out there, because you knew your team was so good that you didn't want to be the reason why you had drop-off when you came in there. So, like for myself, I don't want to put words in Case's mouth, but you know you're talented. You're excited that you have that opportunity to be out there, and you don't want to be the reason to inhibit your team. And you kind of want, and the ability of kind of Case Keenum, his history has showed he's able to step in there and take teams and not have it from an offensive productivity level when he's the starting quarterback.
Bernie, from Kevin's standpoint and preparing this game plan for Case, he's got today. He probably had last night. I'm sure they came up with this last night that Baker wasn't going to play. So he knew about it starting last night. He's had all day today. He'll have tomorrow. And at that point, then you're going to play the game. It's not like we're only without Baker. We're without both starting running backs. Could be without two starting receivers. Could be without a couple of tackles. Hopefully one of them's back. What do you anticipate, having watched Kevin now for a season, almost a season and a half, go about his business, knowing that Case is familiar with the offense? What do you anticipate Kevin Stefanski's game plan being tomorrow night?
He's gone.
Oh, we lost Bernie again there. It's a shame. As you were asking him the question, hopefully we'll get him back and he can answer that one. But as you were asking the question about the mentality, think about this. It's the thing that jumped to my mind as Bernie was talking is, go ahead. All right, Bernie, did you hear the question I asked in terms of Kevin Stefanski's plan and what it will be on basically a day to get ready without both his starting running backs, without Beckham and Landry most likely, could be, and maybe one of the two tackles, maybe both the two tackles. How do you think he goes about his business?
In a short week, even with your starting quarterback, that in itself on a Thursday night game is an issue with both the tackles, some of the receivers, both your top two running backs. That just in itself would be an issue, coming up with a simplified game plan that is successful to get a W, that your team could execute in any situation. Now you add in
All right. It sounds like we're having, again, technical difficulties there. This is a challenge, but the familiarity that those two have with each other, I think, goes a long way. It's not like he has to sit down and say, okay, backup quarterback. And by the way,
I'm not talking about the Case perspective. I'm talking about with everybody else, too.
Well, that part. That's what I said.
So
I think
it's twofold, right? It's not just like Case is ready. He knows this offense. He's prepared. Sure. He's ready. He's done the walkthroughs, all of that. But you're also without everybody else, so it's like, what can you lean on?
I think D'Ernest is prepared. I think they feel very confident in him. I think that he has familiarity of being in the backfield with Case Keenum. I think that the tight ends are going to play a big role. This is a guy we know who likes to throw the ball over the middle of the field. We know that their linebackers are not necessarily great in coverage. They've got excellent safeties in Jackson and Simmons, but that short underneath area, and if they play a lot of shell coverage, that's what this Vic Fangio defense does. It's the accurate quarterback who's patient that is going to be able to find those underneath throws. Now, I wonder, does Denver then say, okay, let's actually play much more of a challenging defense and dare them to throw the ball down the field? And that's where, DPJ's got to win. That's where Schwartz has to win. That's where, if we have Odell, he's got to be able to win for you. I think that your offense has been your offense. You haven't had, by the way, if Odell and Jarvis play, this is the first time they've both played all year. You've been without Odell plenty. You've been without Jarvis, unfortunately, plenty. And so I think that you have some of those contingency plans in place already.
I saw something this morning that we haven't played. It's been over a year since we've played a game with Jarvis, Odell, Bake, with those three, and Kareem and Nick. With all five of them, it's been over a year since they've all played in a game together. Because there were injuries. The injuries.
Well, he got hurt
early.
week 7.
Right.
So, and in week 6,
350
in week 6,
days.
Nick Chubb was out. Nick Chubb went down against Dallas. So the last time they were all on the field together would have been week 4 against the Dallas Cowboys a year ago.
There you go. So it's been that long. The point I was going to make on the backup quarterback situation is it's not even the first thing that came to mind as you were describing it and Bernie was answering it was star reliever, closer, right? You come in with the most pressure in the world. You've got to get these 3 outs. That's it. The biggest difference, though, is that it's not even that. It's worse than that because closer, you know pretty well you're going to go in there every game. You're going to play. Backup quarterback, you may not play for 2 years, and then you're called upon in the biggest moments. So that's the mentality that's even more difficult on that standpoint.
It's not even like baseball where
there's no comparison.
You have to get called up from the minors because somebody can't start because at least you're playing every day in the minors. Yeah, he's got to come in and cold, and he hasn't had this kind of a workload on his body since the 2019 season.
Yeah. So the game plan will be a fascinating one. What adjustments are made? I believe we have Bernie back. Bernie, let's switch to the defensive side of things. We've had obviously. Go ahead.
But but before you switch to the defensive side, and it may be a minor point, but even though Case hasn't played much in the last year and a half, for him to have just got that 3 passes and playing a few snaps at the end of last week's game, although it appears to be mop-up, that for a veteran guy, just getting a half dozen snaps like that, getting in the huddle, getting in there to kind of get some live action. Yes, you didn't get hit. Yes, it's not like a 4-quarter game like that, but just getting a few throws in there and getting his feet wet a little bit. I'm glad that happened as opposed to having 0 snaps so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a little, so that certainly does help. And I honestly have, we were talking about it, Bernie. I'm not sure if you heard it or not. I'm not concerned about Case at all. I think he'll be ready to go. He's a pro. He's a pro quarterback. He's been here a long time. He's ready for this moment. He's familiar with the offense. It's just a matter of what can we lean on. So much of this team's identity is in those 2 backs. It's built in those 2 backs, and we won't have either one of them on Thursday. Now, we like Dearness Johnson a lot, but I think it would also be naive to suggest that he would be as effective as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So you say to yourself, what can we rely on? And the one position group, Bernie, that is healthy is the tight end group. It would feel – and Njoku's been great, especially 2 weeks ago, was not in much of the game plan last week against Arizona. Can you lean on those, and does that fit in well with what you think Case can do?
Well, Beau, it's actually like I was at the production meeting beforehand. I absolutely concur with you. Case Keenum in the offensive game plan / his play, I don't believe that that's at all an issue nor a worry for me this Thursday night. The 2 running backs being out, having the younger backs, seeing how the O-line, especially at the tackle position, health-wise and physically, what they're able to do during the game. You kind of use the phrase, what are we able to possibly rely on or lean heavily on during the game? That's probably more of an issue than the quarterback, because I think our quarterback play, he absolutely understands and knows what to do. And Beau, to your astute point, I love our tight ends. I feel like I'm on the marketing team for the tight end personnel groups, but with the ability to run the ball, also put tight ends in next to possibly younger tackles or tackles that aren't at 100% physically. When you have 2 and 3 tight ends in and around the left and right tackle, and Von Miller doesn't have all of that space to block, and you could have at least the threat of a double team on him with big bodies like David Njoku, Hooper, Harrison Bryant. That's absolutely sets up well for us, especially too. We're looking like a 90% chance of rain Thursday night, windy conditions again. It's really conducive to be a physical presence, and I think that's what we're set up better to do.
Yeah, and so far, tight ends have not scored yet against this Denver Broncos team, and you're going to have to find a way. Bernie, I do want to ask real quickly before we do get over that defensive side. Last week, Joel Bitonio talked about how the Cardinals played that 6-2 front against the Browns, especially when they went in those heavy tight end personnel groupings. How do you attack that? If you're the Browns, is that where you need to give, the Chief, for example, an opportunity as a mismatch guy to go against a bigger guy and run away from him? How do you deal with that kind of a front as a quarterback?
I feel so hypocritical saying this as a tough running ball. Let's bad weather. Let's stick it to them. Absolutely. If you have the disrespect to do a 6-2 front against us with our personnel groups, you're going to get a heavy dose of David Njoku going down the field. God bless you if you could cover him and cover those guys. You have to make them pay and punish them for doing that.
Certainly, everybody here that's on the air right now loves offensive football. But Bernie, have we gone too far at protecting offensive football with a couple of the penalties we had last week on the roughing the passers on Kyler, the one where he didn't even go to the ground, on pass interference, which it seems it's not just happening to us, although it's happened to us a few times, but it's happening around the league where quarterbacks are in a position, smartly so, where if it's almost a desperation instance, they'll just throw it up and hope for the penalty, and it seems like half the time they're getting it. Do you think the league needs to look at how they officiate pass interference and roughing the passer especially? And I know I'm asking this coming from an old quarterback, but it still feels like it's too much.
Yeah, I'm absolutely I'm absolutely conflicted, almost a catch-22. Don't want to sound hypocritical again in my response, but from the old days, absolutely, we let the QBs get hit too much. That was probably too much, just like today is probably too much the other way. And I'm not a guy who likes to use injuries nor refereeing penalties as an excuse. Almost never have I used that for an excuse. But officiating, especially the last couple weeks, a couple of those fourth down pass interference calls, some of the phantom roughing the quarterback calls, some of those the last few weeks. It's amazing that in the NFL level, those are actually calls that are made. So that unfortunately that is happening right now. I think after the season, league probably is going to have to look at that. But in the delta of that happening, for right or wrong, it's an offensive weapon, and you absolutely have to take advantage of it. You almost could see the theatrics, the acting skills of us quarterbacks or receivers are actually baiting these referees to call these penalties. And you're right. If you have an issue and you don't know what to do, you should just throw it up there because you're able to, with the athleticism of a well-coached receiver group, which Chad O'Shea does for us, the odds of it getting picked off are remote, and you have an opportunity to draw a pass interference or a defensive holding call because they're really calling them excessively too much.
Yeah, this is why we need that sky judge who can overrule in cases where they obviously got it wrong. Bernie, I don't know if you were on a team where you were in a situation like this where the offense is so banged up, or perhaps the flip would be you're on a team where the defense was really banged up and you're pretty much at full strength on the other side of the ball. Is this a game where this Browns defense, all the investment that was made over there, knowing what's going on the offensive side of the ball, where they need to kind of put it on their backs and say, we're going to go be the stars that we were brought in here to be, and we're going to get this one done, much like they did in the game against Minnesota and then the game against Chicago?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that, and not just in lip service, almost like when we went to Pittsburgh last year without our coach, without Joel Bitonio. Everyone kind of all the COVID issues and almost galvanized teams. Or like when Myles Garrett was out last year and we thought we were going to have a woe is me defense, and Olivier Vernon comes in and dominates with multiple sacks. I think this game, and I'm not trying to create any bulletin board material, but the Denver Broncos are the worst team in the league on third down conversions.
Yep, 29%.
I really like Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback, but he's banged up a lot also. His arm strength leaves a little bit to be desired too. With the windy, wet conditions, he's banged up himself, and they're one of the worst teams. They're one of the worst teams at picking up third down conversions, which has been the Achilles heel of our defense. So that combination of statistically Denver matches up well against our defense. And just from a personal standpoint of, we have to rally around. When your stars get hurt, when your QB goes down, Nathan, you're so right. Absolutely. The guys, there's other leaders on this team, and absolutely it's time for them to step up. And I absolutely really believe our defense is capable of doing that, and we're going to see a dominant performance from them Thursday night.
Bernie, you're the best, buddy. Thanks for hopping on with us today, pal.
Love it. Go Browns.
Let's
Absolutely. The great Bernie Kosar joining us on the hotline there. Coming up next, an instance where what is actually said does not perhaps meet the way it is read. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. And they take everything you hate about shopping away. There's no big fancy showroom or annoying high-pressure salespeople. Northeast Factory Direct, it's a simple warehouse. Sales staff doesn't work on commissions. They pass the savings on to you. So if you've always wanted a hot tub but thought you couldn't afford one, now you can. Go check them out. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. What Case Keenum was referring to there were the comments made by Von Miller yesterday. Now, we're going to play these for you, and then we'll discuss the way it was, the tone of it on social. Here's Von Miller yesterday.
It's on me. I done played in, all type of, games. I done performed well in all type of games, and I got to play well in this game. I will play well in this game. I'm going to go off. It's going to be a good game for me. I don't want to, guarantee a win, for my teammates, but I guarantee I don't want to put the pressure on those guys this time. I'll put the pressure on me, and I'm going to have a great game. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play well, get a couple of sacks. And, if I can do that, then we will win. If you look at, this season, the first 3 games, I had a couple of sacks and we won those games. And these last 3 games, I didn't do as much. So, if I can play well and I can get sacks and I can find a way, to disrupt the game, we'll win. So pressure's on me to play well. I will play well. I don't know who the tackle is and I'm going against, but I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. And the other guy, too, on the other side. And I'm going to play extremely well, and I'm going to make plays for my team. And, I'm going to set us up to win this game for sure.
So yesterday, if you didn't hear that and you just read it, you came across almost thinking, my gosh, he's unhinged. You'd never heard of anything like that.
Right.
And then you play it and you go, oh, I get it.
Yeah, he's even trying to just put everything on his back, on his shoulders, and he's just tongue-in-cheek, I'm going to kill a guy. It wasn't, but when you read it in print without any context the inflection of the voice, it sounded nuts.
Right. Completely unhinged. Yes.
Like, I've never heard anybody say anything like that before.
No.
And even listening to it, I still have never heard anybody use kind of that verbiage choice. But nonetheless, it's clearly said with a little bit of jest and basically saying, look, we go as I go. I need to have a big game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to.
Historical precedent of when he plays good this season, they win. And when he isn't productive, they lose. It's interesting because he's in this game. Miles in this game. They're both Texas A&M guys. They're both greats. Von Miller is certainly on track to be a gold jacket. I don't think anyone would argue with that he's headed for first ballot gold jacket situation. So this will be fun for that from that perspective as well, and getting to see 2 of the best pass rushers of the past decade or so. I know that we have – you okay?
Yeah, this was a moment that I captured on the field after the Browns got the win on that December 15th game, 2018, was Myles Garrett and Von Miller signing and swapping jerseys after that game, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool. Speaking of Texas A&M, I know neither of you did because you're not paying attention to this college football on this level. But did you see the Jimbo Fisher press conference in College Station where they asked him if he was going to take the LSU job? So the LSU coach has been fired because of what he's done off the field, which is basically he's running around Baton Rouge like Caligula, is basically what's going on. And doing
I didn't know what had happened.
Have you read this?
No.
His behavior, what he's doing? So he wins a national championship. During that season, he gets divorced and then runs amok. So he's running amok in Baton Rouge, including hitting on administrators' wives at gas stations. Now, in Southern football, you'll put up with a lot of that as long as you win. Jeez. Now, once the wins stop coming, well, then you say goodbye, and now we have a little bit of a problem. So Jimbo Fisher is the coach at LSU, or at Texas A&M. Now, he's a former assistant at LSU. Jimbo Fisher's first contract at Texas A&M was 10 years, $75 million. That was his first contract at Texas A&M. They tore that contract up. His second contract, the one that he's under now, is 10 years, $95 million. He'll see every penny of it. The contract includes no buyout. The contract includes, if he is fired with cause, $50 million cash with cause, guaranteed. There's nobody in the NFL that has a deal like that. Nobody. Nobody. So the guy who hired him and gave him this contract is now the athletic director at, you guessed it, LSU, where Jimbo was an assistant. So this all leads to the circus of this press conference he has, I think, on Monday or Tuesday in College Station, where he's asked about the LSU job. And he gives this kind of unhinged micro machine answer in a Southern dialect as only he would. And among the things he says is, I got ranches here.
I can't go anywhere. I have ranches.
I have ranches. Is literally one of the reasons he can't leave is he has ranches.
It sounds flimsy. I feel like a man with his means could
you
acquire
have ranches in LSU, in Louisiana as well?
By the way, speaking of college, which I'm sure this is something that you talked about perhaps on your other show, I saw a snippet. This could be my ignorance. I want to say it was Illinois' coach. All I know.
Yeah, Brett Bielema.
I mean, where he's just basically saying my players suck. This isn't my fault, and then starts singling position groups. Offensive line, we've got nothing.
So the exact line he says, which is astonishing, and so the whole thing is amazing.
What's been the reaction to that?
Oh, he's been panned. But I mean, it was pretty. You knew that this wasn't going to go well for him there. It's the toughest job in the Big Ten. The Illinois job's the toughest job. Lovie Smith was there previously. He didn't recruit real well.
Collected a paycheck.
Yeah.
Awful.
And so he didn't recruit very well. And so Bielema's been brought in. Bielema's got a track record at Wisconsin of winning. So he's brought in and trying to recruit it. He's got these super seniors. So kind of what he's referring to is they told everybody to come back because everybody got an extra year because
said
of
you
COVID.
could have the pro right.
So he's attacking that a little bit, and he's saying we don't have the talent. But the line that's incredible is when he singles out the offensive line, he says there's not a single player on the offensive line who's been recruited here in the last 3 years who is contributing anything to this football team.
Yeah, he said that.
That's the quote. So good luck signing kids with that. In the era of name, image, and likeness, in the era of player freedom, good luck. Yeah, Bozo.
I don't know.
Are they going to discipline him?
They don't. The problem with a lot of these places is they don't have a way out of it if they do. Like, Illinois is not flush with cash. They're not going to be able. They can't play buyouts. I mean, they got to get Deke to write some bigger checks over there so they can.
That's about
hire
right.
and fire
Chase
coaches.
McLaughlin.
Yeah. Got to get those guys to hire and fire some coaches, man.
By the way,
coaches' contracts in college football are insane.
That team hasn't been – I don't think that team has been relevant since I covered them in
Probably since Jeff George.
2002.
No, they played in a Rose Bowl in 2007. Played in a Rose Bowl with Ron Zook. Ohio State went to the
Zook
national
came in
championship, and he won a couple of recruiting battles. They played for a Rose Bowl. They didn't win it, but they played for one. And then they said, well, we can do better than Ron Zook, and they haven't.
No, because Turner was the coach when I was covering them, and I was doing the Bill Self show.
Bill Self and
on the basketball. They're a basketball
powerhouse.
Sure,
Still are. Good basketball team this year.
So I came around across getting in the preparation for this game. A cool stat ties back to Illinois. You'll see.
Yep.
Teddy Bridgewater in the first 2 games this season became the 4th player in NFL history to open a season with 2 or more touchdown passes, no interceptions, and a 75% completion rate in each of the first 2 games of the season.
Okay.
You'd think there'd be more than 4 people who have done this.
You would.
Not.
Yeah.
They are.
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater in 2021.
Yeah.
Drew Brees in 2018.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
In 2015.
And here it comes.
Jeff George in 1994.
Not Kirk Cutter. Here's what what's interesting is the highs. The highs are very high with Rodgers and Breeze, and the lows.
How dare you?
They're not really low. They're
the
very
only other
average.
times it's happened,
the lows are really average. Bridgewater average.
21
George
times
average. The elites. The high on that stat. That stat's a bit of an anomaly.
Hold on. Can we have something for the fact that he did it 21 years before anybody else? Before they even knew this was possible? 2 decades.
Where'd it get him?
They went to the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
He also was the
high,
quarterback
low.
on the first team ever to have 4,000-yard quarterback,
Have you met him?
3,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard running back.
Have you met him?
No, sad.
Have you been on the phone with him at any point, or been on a
No,
radio
Rex
show?
I've got to
Rex,
talk to
I know
him.
because of DP, but I was curious if there was ever like a chance where.
No, we should be.
Would you be worried? Would you have some apprehension about meeting him for fear that it would go,
I wouldn't expect it. I mean, everything that I've ever
would tell you it would go.
Right.
He's a different kind of dude. I've heard he's aloof.
That's one word I've heard. I've heard others as well. So
yeah.
I just was curious.
So like I'd be going into it, but I feel like he would understand my.
You think he would embrace your enthusiasm
for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Few people have more misguided enthusiasm for anyone than you do for him.
I don't think it's misguided at all.
Well,
if you're in a club of one.
I don't believe that I am. There's others out there. Join me. Hit me up on Twitter.
I think you're in a club of one.
I should have a those ads for like Facebook groups or whatever. See where they come up with like obscure things.
Yeah.
They should have one with like for the Jeff George fan club, and I'll be in it.
Do you remember like there was the Got Milk ad with the Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, the kids eating the peanut butter?
Aaron Burr.
Right.
That's a top
for
10
the kids.
iconic ad.
Right. But I mean, for the kids out there.
Sure.
And so he's listening to the radio. What are the incredible odds that the trivia question for $1 million is, who shot Aaron Burr? or Alexander Hamilton,
right?
And he's can't get the milk, and that leads to got milk. That's how I envision you with Jeff George. Like you're the one guy who has the answer to the question on Jeff George. You're the one. It's a club of one.
I am loving this conversation.
I love you.
Why can't I just point out one stat that he's in that's pretty good? It's pretty cool. He was 21 years ahead of his time.
I think it's amazing. It just happens to be in this media guide. I will give you credit for that.
Which, by the way,
pretty wild.
is pretty skimpy.
Sparse. And
there's not much.
Got a little highlighter.
A lot of content that
He's got it highlighted.
It got highlighted.
Better or worse coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily 850 ESPN Cleveland. Damn right he is. Do you love the Browns? Gain exclusive team access with NFL Extra Points, credit card for special ticketing, financing, 20% off NFLshop.com, and rewards like player meet and greet, signed memorabilia. Apply today at NFLextrapoints.com. Get started with 10,000 bonus points after qualifying purchases, enough to redeem for a $100 statement credit. To learn more, visit NFLextrapoints.com. Offer subject to credit approval. See application terms and conditions for complete details. Time for a little better or worse, or higher or lower. Brought to you by our great friends at the Ohio Lottery. Gibbe, hello.
Hi, guys. Hey, Nathan, you're hot. 30
You're hot.
seconds later,
You're hot.
I'm going to talk while I'm hot.
What?
Still haven't figured it out.
Coming at you.
Why are you attacking me?
Coming in
Oh,
hot.
that's the tip of the iceberg of what's coming down
Oh,
the pipe
boy.
here on this
Oh,
one.
boy. A real treat.
Yes, sir.
I don't
Let's
even
get
understand
right
what just
to it.
happened. What did I do wrong?
What'd I do?
What'd I do?
What'd I do?
Danny hit the
Morning,
higher or lower.
Better or worse?
No. Misguided fools.
Misguided fools.
Angry.
Higher or lower, presented by our great friends at the Ohio Lottery this week. Compliments of Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. The Browns come in at number 14. We'll get to whether they should be higher, lower, or just right, but he does say the Browns don't do high expectations very well.
So snarky.
Cheap
in
shot.
this.
Cheap
totally.
shot. Florio.
Unnecessary.
If you're not going to acknowledge the injuries,
come on.
I mean, you can't not acknowledge the injuries here. You can't. By the way, Florio, how about on your site you stop the pop-ups, man? I can't even read this thing. There's 60 videos that pop up
crazy.
at once.
I muted them because I knew that they would just...
Oh, my gosh. There's so many. 14?
14. So,
look, we're without two of the 5 best backs in the league. We're without our starting quarterback. We might be without our top 2 receivers. We could be without our 2 tackles. We are without our number 1 tackler. Yeah, appropriate. We're battered,
We're
man.
at a crossroads right now.
We're battered.
Yes. We need to win this game.
To say this without acknowledging the injuries is silly.
Is amazing.
It makes it seem like you're, performing at a level below the expectation, and you have everybody available.
This is really the first game that we don't have everybody available. I mean, we
No,
went
it's
into that
not.
game
We
against
haven't had
Arizona.
We have not. When have we been 100%? Week 1 for a half?
True. Well, who's 100? Who is 100%?
No, I know, but we've missed significant players every week.
Yeah.
This will be our second game without Nick Chubb.
Florio being a crud would be like the Ravens.
Beckham and Landry have not
without
played.
everybody.
Beckham and Landry haven't played
together.
Period.
Period.
So, I mean, Delpa didn't play to start the year. So, no, we have not been healthy. We're without our top 3 tackles.
We needed to handle our business in Kansas City and against the Chargers.
I agree.
And we'd be 5-1, and it'd be fine. You'd have
It'd
a
be
little
fine.
buffer, little
Yes,
cushion.
no buffer.
None.
Cunningham hit it.
The Chargers won the one that.
Higher or lower?
Number 1, Arizona, undefeated. Number 2, Tampa Bay. Number 3, Baltimore, 5-1. Higher, lower, or just right, Zegura?
I think that they deserve all the respect of what they've done overcoming the significant injuries that they have had.
Yeah.
Honestly, they've gotten lucky in a couple of games, but took advantage of breaks and made their fortune. I don't think that they would be favored on a neutral field against the Rams, the Packers, or the Bills right now. So I think that they are worse than that. But they are in what I would call the teams that are capable of winning the Super Bowl this year. So they are a team of consequence as far as I'm concerned.
I've heard that Neil Anderson is going to start at running back for him this week. Give him 10 carries.
He was great. Well, I used to play Stratomatic League with my dad, and I was the Bears.
That's what I've heard.
And I gave it to Neil Anderson about 48 times a game.
Yeah. That's what I heard, that it's going to be a little bit of a split, that he's going to be involved. Look, they're the best team in the AFC.
Are we? Really?
Are they?
They are right now.
You take them over the Bills right now?
Right now, I would. Yeah.
I would not.
I would right now. I would put them. I would right now. I would. They could.
So
they are.
Let me ask you this: on a neutral field, who do you think Vegas has as the favorite? Bills, Ravens?
Probably Bills right now, but Bills I think are a little inflated about. They've annihilated some bad teams in there. They have.
They're good.
Look, I agree with you. I think they're good too. I think those two are right there. They're close. But you got to give credit to this Ravens team.
Agreed.
It's
So
incredible what they've done.
I
mean, when they lost Marcus Peters, I thought, well, now they can't play cover 0. Oh, yeah, they can.
Ronnie Stanley.
Watch them.
They've lost J.K.
Watch 'em.
Dobbins, Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Bateman just made his
They
debut.
lost Yonda in the offseason. Like, I mean, it's a lot going on.
Yeah. Bateman just made his debut. That was one of their first-round picks.
Yeah, right.
They hit on the kid from OWAF out of Penn State. He's been great for them.
You knew that.
Of course. Just give him a great, just an absolute
stud college player. Put him with them. He'll be.
He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Next.
Higher or lower?
I'm skipping all the way down because we're going to run out of time in this segment, and I don't want to shortchange the victory.
What could he
lap
possibly
coming.
want?
San Francisco, ranked 20th. Now,
appropriate.
They are 2-3, not 2-4. I started to shortchange them there in the copy. There's an error in the copy. I'm acknowledging.
You were too excited about the comment that you forgot to pay attention to the details.
What's the comment? I haven't read it.
What Mike Florio says.
Okay.
Could Kyle Shanahan actually be sliding toward the hot seat?
What?
No.
Let's
Garoppolo's
go!
out.
Come
They had
on!
to start Trey Lance. If you watch that game,
Wait,
he
hold on.
designed a great game
Irrelevant.
plan.
I don't need analysis. What did Florio really write that?
Yes.
Crazy.
That's why
Full of
that
snark.
is the only reason why this power poll is in higher or lower this week.
Spiteful Gibby is amazing.
Listen, Gibby started his day off with some high C. He's juiced up. He's ready to go, and this is what we get.
I'll tell you what this higher lower was. This higher lower was the usual suspects, and right now I read Kobayashi on a little plate. That's what this whole thing's been about.
Hold on.
And Gibby just strides right out of here.
ESPN Radio this morning. Shanahan's name comes up, and the question is, why isn't he on the hot seat? And I about drove off the road.
Wow.
Gerard Chariot just wrapped up with them.
They're
And I
coming
was
for
like,
Kyle.
What?
The vultures are circling.
Are they not aware of the injuries?
I don't know. I do think it's fair to say, like, they've had 3 straight years of injuries. Something's going wrong out there.
Something.
You know, you can't have 3 straight years of injuries, and they've had it. That's amazing, though.
Gibby.
Good job
That's
you,
it.
Gibby.
I
Good
don't
job
care
out
if
of you.
anything else happens on higher or
That's
lower.
it.
3
I don't
highs,
care.
lowers. That's it.
Now we got over and under tomorrow.
Verbal Kent.
Jeez Louise.
All right. So
Chesty
much more to
Gibby.
come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
And Cleveland.
Injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. Call the lawyers at Elk & Elk for a clear answer as to what happened during your childbirth. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio, today. Good luck to the Cavaliers tonight. They open up the NBA season at Memphis. Did you watch any of the games last night?
The Lakers are trying to run an experiment where they have no outside shooting in a league that is
feel like that's
predicated
gonna
upon
work.
outside shooting.
Your boy,
I loved it.
Gibby's boy, LeBron James, is a fantastic player, one of the greatest of all time. Not great as a GM. Apparently, he vetoed the Buddy Hield deal. They were going to do Buddy Hield for Kuzma, and instead they put KCP and Kuzma for Westbrook.
What?
Like, Hield is perfect for what they need.
He
right.
scored 20 a game,
Right.
shooting
Just
wide open threes.
Wide open threes over and over and over and over and over and over.
One word to describe the Bucks
30
championship
seconds.
rings that also double as a necklace.
Large?
Have you seen them?
I have.
They look like the work of Chesty Gibbe.
Chesty Gibby.
Chesty
for sure.
Buckey.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
That
did
comes
that one.
tomorrow.
All right, we're back.